Chautauqua AudioWorks is more than a music store. The full-service music store offering audio production, sales, service, and rentals. We're located at 3335 South Roberts Road, Fredonia, New York.
My name's Todd Langworthy. I'm at Chautauqua AudioWorks today, and we're going to be talking about some Eden bass amps. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of the things today. Just a little bit, the bass that I'm playing today, this is a 70s Squire Jazz. It's everything is stock on it, so for you guys that you like a comparison, this will kind of give you something to compare to. I'm going to play my reverse Jaguar Fender, which has humbuckers in it, so that'll give you something else to look at as well. So you get two different basses to kind of hear what the amps and what the strings will do. Both strings or both basses have the foundation strings. The amps I'm playing today, the Eden combos, I'm going to mainly play the EC210, which is a 180 watt 210 combo. It does not have a tweeter. It's got kind of the whizzer cones in the middle of each of the 10-inch speakers, so it's a little bit different. It doesn't have like the separate tweeter like a lot of the combos have. Some of the combos don't even have tweeters anymore, or they have a switch on the back you can turn them off. So I found online very few reviews or anything of this amp. There's only a couple. They're really not as helpful as I would like, so I'm going to try to give you some insights into the amp on what it'll do, and then we'll also talk a little bit about the little brother, which is the EC10, which is the 50 watt combo version, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. Before I play a little bit for you, I'll just kind of go over the features on the amp and let you take a look at it real quick. The amp itself is pretty light. It's maybe 40 pounds-ish. If that, not hard to pick up at all. There's handles on the side, so it's really not bad. As far as the controls on the top, it's got separate gain and master, which I always prefer that rather than just having the one master and then the gain has to go according to whatever your input on your bass is, whether it's a hotter pickup or not. So it's got separate controls for gain and master. This has an excellent one-button compressor. It's one of the best ones that I've tried. Eden also has the enhance feature, which is kind of your typical smiley face, boost the bottom, boost the top. As you bring this up, it gives you much more of that scooped feel. So I'll kind of play with that when we play a little bit. Then you've got your bass. You have a mid-level and you also have a mid-sweep, so you can move the mid-level to wherever you want it. I'll go back and forth a little bit on that to show you what that does. And then the treble for your high end, of course, and that's pretty much the top of it. On the back, first of all, I want to talk about this because nowhere on the Eden website or in any videos could I find anybody talking about the external speaker jack on this amp. When you plug in to this, it disables the speakers internally. So if you're thinking that you're going to get this amp and then put another cab with the 210s internally, that's not going to work. When you plug into this, you're using an external cab and it cuts off the internal speakers. So I guess Eden did that so that when you use the combo by itself, it's 180 watts. It's the full 180 watts that the head puts out, and then if you use an external cab, which 4 ohm minimum, if you put a 4 ohm cab with it, you're also going to run 180 watts. I would imagine if you put an 8 ohm cab externally with this, it'll probably only put out 100 watts or so. It has a plug for earphones, so you can use it as a practice amp if you want. It's got effects send and return, which is nice. A lot of combos don't have that. It's got your XLR out to go to the board, which it also has a nice feature. It's got a tuner input as well, so that's nice. A lot of combos don't have that. You've also got your stereo input here for media for like your iPhone or whatever you want to plug in with an 1/8 inch jack. So that's what the amp has on it. Again, I'm going to be playing both basses through it just to kind of give you an idea what it sounds like. I've got it pretty much Pretty much flat right now. The gain is very low. These are both passive basses, so there's nothing with a preamp that's doing anything to the amp. So what you're hearing is just what the amp is going to do. The sweet spot for the compression seems to be somewhere between 10 and like 2 o'clock. The enhance is again the mid scoop, so I'm going to leave that kind of down at about 9 o'clock to start with, and I'll show you what that'll do. The bass itself, I've got everything up to 10. That's not normally how I play it. I'll kind of show you what you can do if you roll your tone off a little bit, so that will give you another idea of the sounds you can get out of this amp. So. So that's with everything kind of up. Now what I like to do a lot is roll my tone off and bring it up a little bit, but like if you want more of kind of that vintage, kind of that thumpy kind of sound, you can roll the tone off, and you can see kind of what you can do with it. Just again, set pretty much flat. So again, that's with the tone totally off. I can bring it up a little bit to about 3, and then we can add a little bit in. This is normally where I kind of like to play a lot. So that's with everything pretty much flat. So what I'll do now is I'm going to turn up the enhance and go up to about 3 o'clock with it. This is much more of like the mid scoop, where it's boosting the bottom and the top more, and you'll be able to hear it. So I'll just play a little bit with that and leave everything kind of where it's at right now. I'll bring the tone back up to 10 just because, you know, that'll kind of keep everything even. So. So that's with the enhance up, so it's kind of doing the mid scoop thing a little bit, and you can feel it kind of bring the bottom end in a little more. If I bring the compressor up to about, again, like 3 o'clock or so, it'll compress a little bit more. The compression on this amp, it's a 1-button compressor, but what I find is that in the times that I played this amp, as you bring the compression up and you really get up to like the 3, 4 o'clock on the compressor, the main compression that it does is down in the lower registry. It really tightens up the bottom a lot, and it doesn't really mess too much with the top. So I mean, it's really not, it's not anything that, you know, you're not going to compete with Marshall stacks, but this will get quite loud, and you could use this in a band setting. It's not going to fill a big room or anything like that, but if you're just going to use it on stage for monitoring and you're just going to run your DI out of the back of the amp to the board, this would be fine for stage monitoring, you know, if you're playing with a 3 or 4 piece band. So that's with this bass. What I'll do is I'm going to switch to the other bass, which has got humbuckers in it, and it'll give you a little bit different feel for what the amp sounds like with that, just to give you kind of a comparison. I have both pickups on, volume is all the way. I'm going to go with tone all the way up, so everything's pretty much the same. So this is probably somewhat of a flat sound, more or less. So you can see it's a little bit louder because these humbuckers are definitely hotter than the stock Squier pickups, but this amp I've actually come over a few times and played with it, and I pushed it a little bit, and it really doesn't fart out. And then when you bring the compression in, it really helps to tighten that bottom up, and you can kind of push this amp and you're not really going to hear it kind of, fired out so much like a lot of other ones do. So now I'll do I'll push the enhance up again to about 3 o'clock, just to give you an idea on that. So this is more of the mid-scoop thing. So that's kind of with the enhance up, and then I'll bring the compression up like around like 3 o'clock or so towards the max. You can really hear that compression with the hotter pickups. You can hear it a lot more because these pickups are putting out more, so the compressor is really coming into play a little bit, and you can really feel it tighten things up. You could adjust that however you would like. So I kind of showed you a little bit of the mid scoop and the enhanced, because that's what the amp really does. I mean, they've got it set up with the enhanced to kind of be able to do that. I'm going to flip it the other way now and show you if you want to do the opposite of the smiley face. If you're like in a punk band, or you do the thrash metal stuff, and you want something much more mid-rangey that's going to stand out a lot, I'll show you. It'll do that too if you want. It's a totally different sound. So I'm going to set it up for that. I'm going to take the enhance like way down to like almost nothing, like about 8, 9 o'clock. I'll bring the compression like back to about 10. As far as the mid-level, I'm going to bring the mid-level up to about 2 o'clock. I'll take the bass down a little bit to about 11 o'clock, and the treble I'll bring down about 11 too. So I'm doing kind of the reverse smiley face here just to show you what it'll do and how it can kind of change the tone. So you can definitely feel that mid-ranginess if you want to bite through more in the mix, if you're having a hard time being heard, depending on what your guitarist is doing with his tone, and you want to stand out a little bit more and be in the mix better, that might be something you'd want to do, but the amp will do that. So I'll bring up the compressor now with that setting just to see what that will do. I haven't actually tried to see one yet with this. So that's really not bad at all. I kind of like that. I haven't really tried that setting with that much compression yet on the amp, and it seems to work pretty well. If you're trying to really cut through and you want to make sure that you're not cutting through too much in spots, bring the compression up, I guess, and push those mids quite a bit, and that gives you a kind of a nice tone to cut through with a band, and for certain tunes that might be good. So pretty much everything on the amp I think I've shown you now as far as some different settings and such. With this bass I've had the tone up all the way. If I go back and kind of roll it down a little bit. So again, you can take the tone off on the bass a little bit and tweak it a little as well. So I really like the amp. I think it's got a lot of different settings on it. I think that it's got some nice versatility. You could use this with old school stuff, kind of the vintage sound. You can do more of the mid-rangey with an edge to it if you're doing like rock stuff. I think you can do that as well. The amp weighs right around 40 pounds, give or take a pound or two. Not heavy. I mean, you can pick it up without a problem. One thing I'm going to show you just to finish up the video today is the little version, the 50 watt. I'll let you take a look at the top because it's a little bit different, and I'll play that one as well. But it's a little bit different. It doesn't have all of the features on it that the big one does, but that's okay. It's more of a practice thing. It's not anything you'd probably really gig with or anything, but. So we'll look at the controls on it. Um, it's 50 watts. The gain and master are separate on this as well. The nice thing is for a small combo, 50 watts, it still has a lot of the features that the other amp has. It's got the enhance feature, just like the bigger one does. It's got bass, mid, and treble. It doesn't have the mid scoop or the mid sweep, I should say. It doesn't have that, so you can't adjust the mid range where you want it. The little one does not have the XLR out, so like if you were going to gig with this in like an acoustic duo or something like that, you'd have to have a separate DI because this does not have the DI in it like the bigger one does. But for a small acoustic duo, if you're just doing coffee shops and things like that, you're probably not doing that anyway. So this will actually get quite loud, and if you're just doing an acoustic duo thing, you could probably get by without going through the system at all, just putting your vocals through the system. This also has kind of the whizzer cone in it as well. There's no separate tweeter, so it's a similar tone, but obviously a much smaller box and only one speaker instead of two. So. I'm gonna pull the enhance up, like just about to the max, to see how much of the scoop you can hear. It's a little bit different, of course, without the mid sweep feature. So. So that's with the enhance almost all the way up. Without that mid sweep feature, it's a little bit different. So I'm gonna take the mids like right out, and I'll drop them down to about 8, 9 o'clock just to see if I can make it sound a little different. So you can kind of get the mid scoop with this a little bit. With one speaker, I think it's a little bit harder, and only 50 watts. It's a little bit harder to get the differences in the tone in the small one, but it does a pretty good job, really. I think the enhance is nice. It's got some nice features on it with the effects send and return. So that's nice. You've got the tuner input as well, so that's really helpful. I mean, so it'll do most of the stuff that the big one will do, just doesn't have a couple of the features. And again, it's probably meant more for practicing and maybe like a small acoustic gig or something like that. But those are the amps. I really like them. I mean, the EC10, the small one, is, I mean, you can pick that up with one hand. I don't think it's probably not even 20 pounds. Want to thank Chaco Audio Works for having me here. Again, my name's Todd Langworthy. I'm with Midnight Recovery is my band, so check us out online, midnightrecoveryband.com. Shout out to my buddy Jeff Duke down at Rumble Seat Music in Nashville. I see him doing all their videos down there. I used to play with Jeff for years, and I kind of got to the point I was sick of seeing him doing all these videos, so I decided I wanted to do one. So Jeff, hope you like it, buddy. So thanks for joining us, and come down to Chaco Audio Works and check out the amps. They got everything here. They've got the SIT strings as well that I've been playing today. The foundations are the ones that I've got, the newest ones. They're in the 45, 105 range, so that's what I like to play. So hope you learned something. I tried to include as much as I could on the amp because there's really not a lot out there on this amp. So if you're thinking about buying one, hopefully I helped you to make a decision, but you got to go try one out. So go try it out for yourself, see what you think. Come to Chaco Audio Works here in Sheridan, New York, and check out all their great stuff. Thanks.